Welcome to Timeless Audiobook, Never Flinch, a novel by Stephen King. Stephen King, the master of suspense and psychological horror, takes readers deep into the darkest corners of the human mind with Never Flinch, a novel that explores fear, control, and the terrifying strength of human resilience. With his signature style that blends ordinary life with creeping dread, King crafts a story where every heartbeat counts, every shadow hides secrets, and where flinching once could mean the difference between survival and destruction. The novel opens in the quiet, unassuming town of Ashburn, Maine, where life flows at its predictable pace. Ashburn is the kind of place where neighbors know each other by name, where kids ride their bikes along tree-lined streets, and where the greatest scandal is who forgot to mow their lawn. But beneath this calm exterior, something sinister simmers. The town hides scars, some visible, others buried so deep that only the most traumatic events can drag them back into the light. Our protagonist is Mara Henley, a 35-year-old trauma therapist who moved back to Ashburn after years away. In Boston, she returned to escape the chaos of city life, to heal her own wounds, and to care for her aging father. Mara carries a quiet strength, shaped by years of counseling others through fear and pain, but she also harbors shadows from her past, especially the tragic disappearance of her childhood friend, Ethan Cole, 25 years ago. Ethan vanished on a stormy autumn evening and was never seen again, his case buried under whispers and unresolved grief. That Mara's return to Ashburn is marked by strange occurrences. At first, they seem harmless. A missing cat, odd noises at night, flickering streetlights. But soon, the small incidents escalate into something far more disturbing. Residents speak of an eerie figure seen lurking around town, dressed in black, face obscured, watching from doorways and alleys. Rumors spread like wildfire, and with them, fear creeps into the heart of Ashburn. The local police, led by the weary but determined Sheriff Adam Blake, dismiss the sightings as paranoia. But Mara knows better. Her years of experience with trauma, victims have taught her how to listen to the quiet panic beneath people's words, to spot patterns of escalating fear. When one of her clients, a young woman named Becca, arrives for a session trembling and whispering about being followed by the faceless man, Mara's instincts scream that something is horribly wrong. As Mara digs deeper, fragments of forgotten memories begin to resurface. She recalls the strange warnings Ethan shared with her before his disappearance, stories about an urban legend whispered among the town's children. They called it the Watcher, a figure that never blinked, never flinched, a predator that thrived on fear. Back then, it was dismissed as childish nonsense, but now, the pattern is repeating itself. Becca isn't the only one targeted. Other residents report chilling encounters. A jogger finds a symbol carved into her front door. An elderly couple wakes to find muddy footprints inside their locked home. The community begins to unravel, suspicion turning neighbor against neighbor. And under the surface, an undeniable truth emerges. The Watcher is not just a story. And the rule is simple: never show fear, never flinch, or you become the next victim. The novel intensifies as Mara partners with Sheriff Blake, despite their strained history. Blake was Ethan's older cousin and blames himself for not protecting him all those years ago. Together, they uncover a hidden thread of disappearances, stretching back decades, all marked by the same signs: the faceless figure, the carved symbols, and the rule that those who show fear vanish without a trace. Stephen King masterfully weaves the narrative with eerie flashbacks to Mara's childhood, her friendship with Ethan, and the haunting atmosphere of growing up under the shadow of the Watcher. Through these glimpses into the past, readers see how fear shapes the town, passed down like a curse, infecting generations. As Mara and Blake investigate, they discover a chilling connection between the current terror and a series of psychological experiments conducted in the 1970s at a now-abandoned facility on the outskirts of town. The experiments, known as Project Resolve, aimed to test the boundaries of human fear and control, pushing participants to their breaking point. The project was shut down after several deaths and disappearances, swept under the rug by those in power. Among the missing researchers was Dr. Victor Hale, a brilliant but morally questionable psychologist obsessed with understanding fear. His Notes, recovered by Mara and Blake, reveal horrifying insights into his work. Dr. Hale believed that fear could be weaponized, that by eliminating the body's instinctive reactions, flinching, blinking, trembling, a person could become untouchable, invisible to danger. But failure to suppress fear, even for a second, marked them as prey. The parallels between Hale's experiments and the current events are undeniable. The faceless figure, the Watcher, is not merely human. It is a manifestation of Hale's twisted ideology, perhaps even Hale himself, or a disciple carrying on his legacy. King keeps readers guessing, masterfully blurring the lines between psychological horror and the supernatural. Tension escalates as more residents fall victim. Becca vanishes, leaving behind a room marked with the same cryptic symbols. The town spirals into chaos. Curfews are enforced, and whispers of abandoning Ashburn grow louder. But Mara refuses to run. Haunted by her guilt over Ethan's disappearance and driven by her duty as a therapist, she resolves to confront the darkness, even if it costs her everything. The novel's climax is a masterclass in suspense. Mara and Blake venture into the abandoned Project Resolve facility, a decaying labyrinth of forgotten horrors, desperate to uncover the truth. The building is a character in itself, its rotting walls whispering with echoes of fear, its hallways drenched in darkness. King's atmospheric descriptions pull readers into the suffocating tension, every creaking floorboard and distant whisper amplifying the dread. Inside, they discover a hidden chamber containing evidence of continued experiments, faded photographs of past victims, and disturbing recordings of Dr. Hale preaching his philosophy. The final revelation shatters Mara's world. Ethan was part of the experiments, taken by Hale to test the boundaries of human fear. His disappearance was no accident, and worse, Hale succeeded. The Watcher is the result of those experiments. A predator conditioned to hunt fear itself, born from Hale's obsession and humanity's darkest instincts, in a pulse-pounding confrontation. Mara and Blake face the Watcher, revealed to be both monstrous and tragically human, a creation stripped of empathy, driven by Hale's teachings. The rule remains, never flinch, never show fear. But Mara understands that fear is inevitable. It is not the absence of fear that defines strength, but the ability to act despite it. Using this knowledge, Mara orchestrates a psychological battle, turning the Watcher's own conditioning against him. She confronts her deepest fears, memories of loss, guilt, and helplessness, channeling them into defiance. In doing so, she disrupts the Watcher's predatory instincts, breaking the cycle of terror. Blake, armed with the evidence from the facility, exposes the town's buried history, forcing the community to confront its collective trauma. Never Flinch concludes with Ashburn scarred but resilient. The town acknowledges its haunted past, the residents begin to heal, and the shadows recede. Mara, though changed, finds peace in knowing that confronting fear head-on is the only path to freedom. Yet, true to King's style, the final pages leave a lingering unease. In the reflection of a shop window, a faceless figure watches, motionless, waiting. The brilliance of Never Flinch lies in its layered exploration of fear. King reminds readers that fear is not merely jump scares or monsters. In the dark, it is woven into the fabric of everyday life, in regrets, unspoken traumas, and the vulnerability of being human. The novel challenges the idea that suppressing fear makes us strong. Instead, it suggests that true courage is embracing fear, standing tall in its presence, and never letting it dictate our actions. That King's characters are rich and flawed, their development anchored in authentic emotion. Mara's journey from self-doubt to empowerment resonates deeply, while Blake's redemption arc adds emotional weight to the story. The supporting cast, from the terrified townspeople to the enigmatic Watcher, create a chillingly believable world where no one is truly safe. Never Flinch blends psychological horror with elements of mystery and suspense, keeping readers on edge. Until the final breath. King's prose is sharp and atmospheric, his pacing relentless, and his mastery of building dread unmatched. The novel doesn't rely on gore or cheap scares, but instead crafts a haunting exploration of human resilience, control, and the primal instinct to survive. For fans of Stephen King, Never Flinch delivers everything expected: creeping tension, flawed heroes, disturbing revelations, and an ending that stays with you long after the final page. For new readers, it offers a terrifying yet thought-provoking entry into the world of psychological horror, reminding us all that fear, though inevitable, should never control us. And so, in the quiet corners of Ashburn, beneath the hum of streetlights and the rustling of autumn leaves, the rule echoes on. Never blink, never tremble, never flinch, because something is always watching.